Well, a very good morning to you and thank you for joining us. It is now down to just 72 hours as Kenyans prepare to go to the polls.
And it is less than 24 hours to the last day of campaigns as the candidates make their last speech.
Well, we have the unrivaled coverage of this election on Decision 2022 from across the country.
Indeed, we'll be analyzing all the happenings down to the wire. My name is James Smart.
And I'm Zainab Ismail. You can always engage us. The hashtag to use is Decision 2022 at Zainab Ismail at James Smart without an R.
Absolutely.
The hashtag, like I said, is Decision 2022. All right, let's begin with some of our top stories this hour. Then we'll get to the dailies. The use of the manual register during the upcoming general election features prominently. The High Court in Nairobi has ordered the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission to deploy the use of the manual register at the polling stations.
Justice Thande Mugure has stamped the move by the IEBC to omit the manual register as unconstitutional. And as Sydney Chazima reports, this latest court verdict comes as a reprieve to the Azimio One Kenya Alliance, whose presidential candidate Raila Odinga had indicated that there would be no elections without a manual register.
The Azimio party has been on the forefront of championing for the use of the manual register in this year's general election.
Manual register is a must at each and every polling station. This is not negotiable. You're telling the IEBC they must have a manual register along with biometric identification of the voters on that polling day. Kabla hivyo hakuna uchaguzi.
With IEBC remaining adamant that it will not use the manual register.
In remote areas where there are no observers or maybe where there are also strongholds, it's possible for people now just to use information, the register of voter like ID, to key in the KIMS, retrieve that information, allow the people to vote when they are actually not there in the first place.
However, today's court ruling by High Court Judge Thande Mugure seems to have put the matter to rest. Upon receiving the news about the ruling, the IEBC on its part indicated that it was acting in accordance to the ruling delivered by Kenya's Appellate Court in 2017, which noted that the primary register to be used at the polls is the digital register. The Commission, however, says that a printed manual register will be availed at every polling station.
We have printed manual registers in all polling stations.
And in the event that the voter cannot be identified using their fingerprint due to missing fingers, or the biometrics were not properly captured during registration, the presiding officer shall authorize use of a complementary mechanisms.
However, it appears the Commission is yet to comprehensively interpret the ruling. Sources tell NTV that the Commission is set to give the way forward on Friday.
We have not analyzed the ruling. It has just been done, and we are waiting to see whether there are other implications that needs to be complied with, or there are any contradictions from the ruling that was made in 2017. So let's just wait, and the Commission will be giving its position after we have seen the ruling. 7 lobby groups had moved to the High Court last month, seeking to compel the Wafula Chebukati-led commission to use both manual and digital registers.
My faith is in the people of Kenya.
Meanwhile, Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i has issued a notice gazetting the 9th of August as a public holiday to allow citizens to exercise their constitutional right to vote. Sydney Chazima, NTV.
And meanwhile, Deputy President William Ruto has accused the state of sponsoring night meetings geared towards causing conflict and disrupting the upcoming general election.
Well, the Deputy President claims his boss, President Uhuru Kenyatta, is aware of the meetings and the use of public officials in trying to sabotage his presidential bid.
At his official residence in Karen here in Nairobi, Deputy President William Ruto came out guns, accusing his boss, President Uhuru Kenyatta, the state through the Ministry of Interior, of planning to disrupt the August 9th election.
They are the people holding night meetings to orchestrate and to plan conflict among us Kenyans. And unfortunately, the President of Kenya is aware.
And with the current political campaigns hitting fever pitch, the UDA presidential candidate claims the Interior Ministry is forcing public administration officials to sabotage his presidential bid.
Chiefs, county commissioners, assistant county commissioners are being forced with threats and blackmail of loss of their jobs if they don't become Azimio operatives.
Ruto says the buck stops with his boss, President Kenyatta.
And to stop these people from planning the evil that they are planning. The president knows them very well.
To secure his votes, the deputy president is now leaving nothing to chance.
I equally want to ask the CEO of Kenya Power, Mr. Muli, and the CEO of Communication Authority, Mr. Chiloba, to exercise the responsibilities of their offices in accordance with the law. Kenyans do not want to see what happened during the presidential debate, where huge sections of Kenya were subjected to a blackout. They must never be part of any scheme to switch off either electricity or the internet anywhere in Kenya.
The Kenya Kwanza leaders have vowed to remain steadfast.
With 4 days remaining to the general election, political temperatures are rising, even as Kenya Kwanza leaders are calling on Kenyans to turn up in large numbers to vote for Ruto. Vincent Odur, NTV, Nairobi.
And in the ongoing war of words between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto, Kenyatta now says his deputy is a liar who cannot be trusted with leadership.
The president has accused Ruto of spreading propaganda instead of telling Kenyans the truth about his role in the government.
Well, Kenyatta, who was in Mombasa once again, defended his support for Odinga and rallied the coast to support Odinga's presidential bid. Kevin Mutai has more.
President Uhuru Kenyatta continued his charm offensive, wooing the coastal community to support Azimio la Umoja One Kenya presidential flag bearer Raila Odinga in the race for State House. Kenyatta accused his deputy of lying to the public.
Tunataka watu waaminifu, watu ambao tutaweza kutembea na wao kwa njia ya amani, watu ambao haja yao ni mwananchi, sio sifa, watu ambao wanaongozwa ni haki na ukweli na sio udanganyifu na matusi. Na mimi sijui kama nyinyi watu wa Pwani, watu wa Mombasa, mnaniunga mkono tukisema wale ambao wana uwezo wa kutuongoza kwa amani ni mmoja, Mzee Raila Amolo Odinga.
Nataka niwaulize wana Mombasa, mimi nikitoka nje ya Mombasa kuambia watu kwamba hii ni ngome ya Raila Amolo
The president defended the handshake, saying that it is through his relationship with Odinga that the country has delivered a lot of projects. He claims that Ruto's remarks over the handshake are misleading and that his main aim is for political reasons and not for the good of the country.
Sababu kama hakuna kazi ambayo imefanyika kutoka 2017, ni kumaanisha mwaka wa 2020 ulikuwa mbele ya mwaka wa 2017, si ndio? Ama ni namna gani? Ni mimi sijui hesabu ama ni hawa wajui hesabu? Nikisema ya kwamba huyo ni muongo, ni ukweli ama sio ukweli? Ni kumwekelea ama ni ukweli? Si kazi imefanyika?
The president, however, endorsed ODM's gubernatorial candidate Abdulsamad Sharif Nasir amid calls from the Jubilee candidates in the region who are claiming that they have been sidelined in running the affairs of the party within the coast.
Na gavana wetu mpya wa Mombasa, ati nani?
Watu wanaweza kufanya kazi kwa pamoja na kuelewana ya kwa njia nyingine, na hata kama hatutoelewana si lazima tuwe na fujo na ghasia katika jamii.
The president commissioned the newly constructed Makupa Bridge, which will now restore the port city back to the island status after the destruction of the causeway. That will now see the free flow of the ocean water across the creeks. Other projects also inspected by the head of state include the Kipevu Oil Terminal, the meter gauge rail, and the Dongokundu bypass.
So what it will mean, Kevin, is it will attract more tourists here, which also get industrial investors coming to invest in Mombasa, because investors, they do like infrastructure. So Mombasa economic development, it will go exponentially going forward.
Kevin Mutai, NTV in Mombasa.
All right, and even as the president rallied Mombasa to support Raila Odinga, the former premier was hundreds of kilometers away in the lakeside city of Kisumu, where he called for 100% turnout from Nyanza region in the forthcoming election. Well,
Odinga urged his supporters to turn out to the last man and ensure they support his presidential bid. Odinga dismissing allegations that he is a state project, saying he's confident of winning and does not need government support.
Here now is NTV's senior political affairs reporter, Kennedy Muredi, with that report.
The turnout in Kisumu was monumental. All coming in to listen to Azimio One Kenya presidential candidate Raila Odinga as he rallied his home ground towards an election he believes needs every vote to secure a win. Though opinion polls have placed him ahead of his competitors, Odinga is not leaving anything to chance, calling on the region's 3 million plus voters to come out and vote for him and Martha Karua.
I've come here today to tell you, my people, that I want 100% turnout this time. Not a single vote should go uncast. Those who are sick, who are in wards in the hospital, go and get them, take them to the polling station to vote and take them back to the wards.
Tafadhali, tusiwache hata kura moja nje. Uamushe kila mtu nyumbani, uamushe jirani, uambie kila mtu kura zote kwa kikabu ya baba.
Now, with our sister Mother Wangari Karua, this equation is over. Hakuna any doubting anymore. Bora mujitokeze.
Martha, thank you very much for what you've done. You've walked the walk with me. Thank you and may God bless you.
Kura hii sio kura ya mchezo. Kura hii ni ya kuokoa maisha yetu. Kura hii ni ya kuokoa maisha ya Wakenya.
Odinga has asked his support base to not only vote, but guard the vote as he shrugged off the government project tag.
Don't run away. Don't come with shadow boxing and shadow shows. Who want to rig the elections using provincial administration, or there's intention to intimidate members of the IEBC and so on. Hakuna kitu kama hiyo.
The Kenya Kwanza team has time and again linked Odinga and his running mate Karua to the state, arguing their leadership will be a continuation of the Uhuru Kenyatta regime.
I have told the people who are running against us, Uhuru is the outgoing president of the Republic of Kenya. Leave him alone. Let him go and retire in peace. If you have a problem, face Raila Odinga and Martha Karua squarely.
Odinga's allies vowing to support him and rally their political bases, especially Mount Kenya, to come out and vote for him.
Wale mama wa nguvu ambao wanashikilia Martha ndio aweze kukuvuruta ufike mwisho wa mlima, sio wengine, ni sisi, na sisi ndio kiboko ya Ruto na timu ya wafisadi.
Moving forward, political leaders from this region have now been tasked with the duty of moving back to the areas they come from in an effort to show up the numbers and make sure that everybody that has a voter's card and is on the voters register comes out to register their vote on the August 9th, even as they target 99% voter turnout. Kennedy Muredi, NTV at the Kisumu Stadium in Kisumu County.
Thanks, Muredi. Now, meanwhile, UDA presidential candidate William Ruto has asked administration officers in the government to shun any plans by the government to rig the coming elections, accusing Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i and Principal Secretary Karanja Kibisho of aligning chiefs to a plan to campaign for the Azimio la Umoja presidential candidate Raila Odinga.
Ruto also condemned what he termed as continued frustrations by government in the last leg of his campaigns, claiming he has been denied the use of certain venues. Earlier Thursday morning, there was a standoff at the Tononoka grounds in Mombasa County over the use of the facility.
Well, the Kenya Kwanza Alliance was eventually allowed to continue with their rally. NTV's Melita Oletenges reports.
The fast approaching August 9th general election and the deadline for the official campaign period, August 6th, has seen heightened political activity by the Kenya Kwanza camp. Today, Deputy President William Ruto and his allies took their last charm offensive to Mombasa County and the lower eastern region. Here, Deputy President William Ruto asked chiefs across the country to stay away from an alleged plan to rig elections by his opponents.
Kwa sababu ya kukataa hii mambo wanajaribu kuwafanyisha mambo ya Azimio, mimi nataka niwaambie machief, any chief that will be sacked or will be disciplined, I want to tell them, tutawarudisha kazi tarehe 10 na tuwapatie promotion.
As the presidential race heats up, the game of numbers is expected to play a crucial role in determining who will succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta. The coast and lower eastern region remain a slippery ground for Ruto, but together with his allies, they are stepping on the gas as they seek to convince the electorate.
Hii serikali tunatengeneza, hata huyo Kalonzo Musyoka tutamuingiza kwa hii serikali tunatengeneza. Block ya Ruto iko intact, lakini block ya Raila Odinga, angalia, Western Mudavadi yuko hapa na Wetangula wamehama, wamekuja kwa Ruto.
Ruto's allies say Uhuru is giving Odinga the short end of the stick by not popularizing his presidential bid in his political turf.
Amebaki na wiki ine, siku ine, atoke kwa ofisi na ajepeleka huyu mzee wa kitandawili mpaka huko Mount Kenya.
Wewe kama mwenyekiti wa Azimio, utueleze hiyo bandari mutairejesha kutoka wapi?
With 2 days left to campaign, Ruto is expected to tour Laikipia, Nyandarua and Nakuru counties tomorrow and hold a final mega rally at the Nyayo Stadium on Saturday. UDA presidential candidate William Ruto faces an uphill task in the lower eastern region voting bloc, the political backyard of Kalonzo Musyoka, the Wiper leader, who has vowed his allegiance to Raila Odinga, the Azimio la Umoja presidential candidate. William Ruto has, however, upped the ante on an alleged plot to rig the elections by the Interior Ministry. Melita Oletenges, NTV in Kalamba, Makueni County.
Well, absolutely. 3 days to the next general election. Hours into it, I should say. This is Decision 2022, our way on how we cover this. We cover this the way only we can here on TV. Now joined by my panel this morning, take us through the newspaper review, but also talk about the politics and the current affairs and what we should expect and what you should consider as you go to the polls. Vincent Kimosop, karibu sana to the program.
Thank you, sir.
And indeed, Philip Kisia needs less introduction. Karibu sana.
Thank you, James.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Indeed. I think we're just going to begin with the Daily Nation, of course, and what's on the front page of the Daily Nation. Register behind the fight, manual or digital. Raila wins big as court orders IEBC to use printed list of voters alongside the electronic kits on election day. Well, inside the arguments for and against the two systems and what the decision means for Chebukati, poll rivals and voters. That's on page 7. We'll be getting that in just a moment. And of course, at the very front page, you can see what is the image there. Ruto alleges sinister plot in press briefing. And ease in Kenya Kwanza, the deputy president has launched yet another scathing attack against President Kenyatta, accusing his boss, but without providing material evidence, of planning to disrupt the general election set for next Tuesday in Raila's favor. We'll get right into it. We'll begin with that, which is on page 12 of the Daily Nation. And there you have it. He says the president was behind the alleged night meetings called to plan conflict ahead of the August 9th polls. And this is, I think we've witnessed this, statements being made by the deputy president over the past campaigns, just a couple of weeks ago, I think, as well, while he was in Western region. Philip, what do you make of these statements by the deputy president, hours to the election, calling for press briefing, but with allegations of this magnitude?
I think you will not be surprised, and I hope you're not, because you see, if you've been doing well as a candidate for close to 2 years or 18 months, and then all of a sudden you realize that this seat is just about to slip off your hands. Of course, you'll get into panic mode. I think from what I'm reading is that His Excellency, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, has run into panic, and therefore such statements, are expected for anybody who is in that situation. He's feeling the heat, and what can you do? You must come out and cry the loudest so that hopefully you can get some sympathy. But I think as things are, the electoral body is set to hold a credible election that is free, fair, accountable, and verifiable. That's what is important. So if you see, it's like you have been studying for an exam. If you've studied well and prepared well for the exam, you don't panic last minute. But if you've been joking around with your time, of course, you're bound to panic. It happens, even to students. So I'm not surprised.
Vincent.
Let me say this. Elections are about two things. Elections are about heads and about the heart. So the head is the plan or the manifesto, the things that you launch. That is meant to bring and sell your agenda and tell people what you intend to achieve. But for people to come out and vote, one of the things you have to do is to appeal to their hearts. And at times appealing to their heart might not be as intelligent as the way you'd want to appeal to the minds of people. So for me, what I see it is the galvanizing your base, that if you don't turn up, if you don't come in numbers, then we might not get this thing. So for me, I read the strategy of now that the president has come out clearly campaigning for his competitor, then the only thing that you would throw into the poll is that he's still the commander-in-chief. He can talk to the chiefs. So the people who can only stand on my side for me to get this thing, as Honorable Philip has said, is that turn out, come, let's vote. Let's show them that we are the people. So it is part of the campaign strategies. I think for me, what I would say is that hopefully it remains at that it is not there's nothing beyond the political campaigns that we should be concerned about, so that also Kenyans can exercise their democratic right, come and vote, and then that decision is what stands, because the will of the people is actually what even the Constitution envisages, because the power resides and rests with the people.
I want to talk briefly about these specific allegations, and it's about the use of administrative units, the provincial administration, the chiefs, assistant chiefs, DCs, and the rest of it. It's not the first time we're hearing of these claims, but the deputy president is part of this system as well. So, benefit of doubt, does he know something that we don't?
if you are part of the system, and His Excellency, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, is second in command, unless he is now telling us that he doesn't sit in security meetings, he no longer attends cabinet meetings where all those decisions are taken, then maybe there's some a cause for alarm. But if he attends all those meetings where decisions are made, where plans to counter any negative effect to the forthcoming elections are planned and executed, then he has no cause to worry. But you know, making sweeping statements, and for that matter, in my view, which are quite dangerous, because you know, 4 days for elections, and second in command is casting aspersion in the electoral system. I think I mean, we need to be a bit careful with our utterances at this point in time. So me, I would urge my good friend, the Deputy President, to stay calm. He has done a good campaign. He has been campaigning for 4 years. And you know, if I were him, I would not panic. Like my brother said, I mean, this is a time maybe to whip emotions.
But don't you see there's some sort of, you know, legitimacy to his concerns with regards to those allegations? And, you know, talking about, you know, those leaflets, you know, found in those parts of the country. And of course, we also know there are some people who've been actually arrested with regard to the same.
You see, that's why the allegations, and they remain allegations until they're proved. Because we don't know who is behind this mischief. It could be either side. Okay? So let us treat it as mischief. And what I would urge the security agencies is, you know, to ensure that those behind those leaflets are arrested and put where they belong. Put where they belong. But I think there's no cause for alarm. This is nothing new. Leaflets have been there before, you know. But I think the only difference this time round, I think, and I don't want to speak on behalf of our security agencies, but I think from the experience we've had in 2007, 2017, they are more prepared for any eventuality.
I think for me, what I would only be concerned about is, since we have a history, for example, if you look at the way our elections and our mobilization, the truth of the matter is that we mobilize fast from an ethnic perspective. In fact, even Tom Mboya says that if you want to win an election in this country, you require 2 tribes and a small one. And of course, you know the 5. So let me not go into that direction. For me, when it gets to a place whereby people are arrested, I think what I would have appreciated more is somebody at a higher top of echelons in authority to come and speak to them. I come from the Rift Valley. We've seen what happened in 2007, and when you start, when leaflets, for example, target one community over the other, beyond the politics, we are talking about the lives of the people. So what I would really appeal to those who are in positions of responsibility, that beyond the arrest, because even the people who are arrested were university students. You see, these are where they are at in terms of the hierarchy and political mobilization. They are university students. We know truly that there are financiers behind this, there are politicians behind this, so that it receives the attention it deserves because of the veracity of the issue at hand. The other thing I'd also want to point out is when we are where we are, elections are emotive, and at times that's why I said that the matters of the heart. When we say somebody says tunamalizwa, and that person happens to be speaking on behalf of a community, I think we, knowing our history and where we've come from, is to give it the attention it deserves. Because I can tell you, there are things that if I say here, James Smart says, and you say, Philip Kisia has been in politics. We can say the same thing, but the weight that it carries will be different because of the platforms that we stand on. So I think I would say that since we are in the place of responsibility, just calling that they be given the befitting attention it deserves because of the impact it can have at the end of the day. I would want to speak about the issue of the framing of the deputy president. I think Philip just spoke to it. you have to look at how the deputy president has framed his campaign. If you've been deputy president for 9 years, you know very well that an election requires freshness, you have to have momentum. So he's framed his campaign that after the handshake in 2008, if I remember, March 9th, I have not been part of the system. Now, that gives him the card to be able to get into the campaign as a fresh person. So it is not strategic for him to talk about security meetings, even though, for example, the constitution talks about membership of the National Security Council Committee. That is not strategic politically. Nashma, you know, in politics, they say you campaign in poetry and you rule in prose. It's not fresh to say, I am part of the national security, we understand these things, then what are you promising us? But it says that after the handshake, ladies and gentlemen, may have not been part of this thing. That one gives you the, the opportunity to be able to go and engage. It's like when you're going for an interview. Chances are, if you are doing an interview in the same company, the level of scrutiny is higher. You'll be told on this day, why didn't you do this? But if I'm coming from the outside, I tell ladies and gentlemen, you've never seen a broadcaster like myself. We will take NTV to the next level. You have the opportunity to postulate and posture and point out newness in the process. So it's more of a campaign strategy. Okay. And really, when you are in the game, you understand. We sit in those meetings at times, and those are some of the strategies you require.
I'm happy that my brothers talk about strategy. Yes. That's my area of interest. But anyway, I think we all know that our security agencies have already taken action. They are swung into action. More security personnel have been deployed in those hotspot areas. And we know them. I don't want to repeat in a repeatable media platform like this one. But the sport areas, I think, have been taken care of because you've reported already. You know, increase in personnel, increase in machinery, increase in ammunition. So the level of preparedness in those particular sport areas, I think, is quite high. As for Ruto coming up with a strategy of saying that I have one leg in and one leg out, in my view, has, fell flat on his face, because you know, as somebody who is exercising leadership, you must take a position. Are you in or are you out? You can't say I'm in today, or half of my body is in, the half body is out. So if I were him, if I was uncomfortable with the handshake, and the handshake has been around for about, I think, almost about 3-4 years now. If he is a man of honor, and if he's a man who then believes in strategy, the best thing for me at that point, because you don't have to hold office to ascend to leadership. In my view, he should have resigned many moons ago and been a Raia like myself and seek for that office when you're outside. But when you're part of a system, when you're part of something, you're part of a family, you can't then start saying that I only take credit for what is good, but what is bad, I don't take responsibility. You'll be held accountable for what is good. You'll also be held accountable for what goes on wrong. So, Deputy President, I mean, it's too late to complain. In my view, it's too late. I mean, he has only he has another 4 or 5 days as a Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya.
Until the new one is sworn.
Just another 4 or 5 days.
All right.
And then we'll have a new person coming in. Hopefully, I don't know. But anyway.
Okay. So I think we'll get...
we'll get to the substantive issues, but let's just go through very quickly on the papers.
Right.
Okay. 18,000 observers to monitor Tuesday's vote. Election, hundreds of foreign journalists are also in the country to cover the conduct of the general elections. About 5,000 number of the election observers and foreign journalists who covered the vote in 2017. That number is already about 10,000 applicants of the groups, and is looking to clear out more than 8,000. That's on page 5, which talks about IEBC preparedness and just the level of interest this election has. across the country and in the world, and the importance of this election. I don't think we speak more about this on the question of how our democracy has problems, a lot of starts and stops, but it's still functional. It is still something to look forward to in the Horn of Africa and in the world as such.
I think we, let me say this, James, we may not be having a perfect democracy, but there are things to be able to speak proudly as a Kenyan and as a country. I think it was only 2 weeks ago we were together in the presidential debate. If you look at the organization by the media, together with the different stakeholders and providing Kenyans a platform, that is because of the election. If you look at the level of professionalization of our elections, if you look at IEBC, they've been answering questions coming from the different stakeholders. They may not be 100% satisfactory, but you can be able to see the level of communication, the global interest in this election. I'm concerned, maybe one thing that is not coming to the fore, James, is the issue of the cost of our election per voter. We are running one of the most expensive elections. Our features, our security features on our ballot paper is almost what you have in a currency. Right. So one of the things that I would want to say that it is good for our country, our elections usually is largely credible. The problem usually is on the presidential level, and it's because of the level of interest the presidential ticket attracts. But you will see, look at the number of court petitions that the IEBC goes through. You out of 220, at times 215 are upheld, over 95% performance. So you can see that our elections is largely credible. Problem is usually on the presidential level for other reasons. I have reasons to believe that looking at the posture and the way the IEBC has conducted itself, how it's demonstrated its independence, we are able to say, we tell Kenyans confidently that there is very high chances that their decision is going to be respected, and what will be announced by the commission. I think even the chairperson has said that even the transmission of results, the polling, the results at the polling station, which the Supreme Court said are the final results. Even the media can do their own tally, so that at the end of the day, what will be announced, there are reasons to checkmate. What I'm trying to say is that we wish IEBC the best. We will, of course, support the process and ask all the stakeholders to support them. But ultimately, we will need to have a session at some point, James, to discuss, for me, the issue of the cost of elections and the lessons that other stakeholders. This certificate thing that we was on the media for quite some time, there are lessons I would want to see EACC, Commission for higher education. You know, a lot has come out just as a result of this election. Let me stop there.
All right, and I think even as you speak about the you know, the integrity of the polls itself, on page 4 of the Daily Nation, Philip, KPMG audit exposed major loopholes in voter register. So an audit report, of course, talking about the 2022 voters register that can be exploited to manipulate next week's elections. The report, according to KPMG, unearthed weak password systems and login details of ghost electoral officials, pointing to the possibility of hackers accessing the database and proceeding to deny voters their right to cast their ballots by either deleting their details from the roll or transferring them from their preferred polling stations. So just very quickly, key highlights there. Suspicions of voter transfer. A total of 50,000 voters were transferred in Mandera County. The figure is higher than the number of voters registered between 2017 and 2022. These are just some of the issues, of course, being disclosed in this new audit report. But also very interestingly is the fact that, you know, IEBC just made public the contents of the report for only 47 pages, but the report is actually 156 pages big.
You know, it would be sad if Wafula Chebukati, being the chairman of IEBC, received this report from a very reputable audit firm, KPMG. It's an international audit firm. And I have no doubt that they have done a superb job. So this, first of all, let's give credit to IEBC. You know, when you agree to subject yourself to audit, I think that raises even the confidence level that you are saying that you may not be perfect, that there could be weaknesses in your system. So you're saying, I mean, I don't have internal capacity to audit myself. Can I have an external person who has a reputation to come and audit me? So I give Wafula Chebukati and team a tick for having that confidence. Okay? But then the question that I think you media should be asking and the Kenyans should be asking is the glaring issues that have been found in this report, like people being able to access, you know, to hack the system, people being able to create their own passwords, that the number of registered voters are higher than they should be in certain areas. I think those are weighty matters that I'm hoping, like any other Kenyan, is that Chebukati has addressed those issues. If he has addressed them, I am hoping that before we get into elections or into voting on Tuesday, he'll publicly come and give us bullet by bullet the action that has been taken from the faults that have been found in the system. So if he has done that, well and good. If he has not done, then of course I'm afraid that we'll not have a credible election, and that can be dangerous for this country. So I think the honors is on Wafula Chebukati to come and tell Kenyans who have availed to him all the necessary resources that he requires, manpower, time in terms of minutes, money, and everything that he requires to roll out a free, fair, credible, and verifiable election. So the honors really is on Wafula Chebukati. This is what I'm glad we're reading it. In fact, from your newspaper, Nation, this expose, or rather at least you've shared this information with us. But the question that should have followed immediately is to Wafula Chebukati to ask him what action has followed. Because maybe he has acted, I don't know.
I think let's give IEBC the credit it has had, sorry, it deserves. Partly, some of the questions have been answered. I've been a keen follower, like for example, the issue of the voter register vis-a-vis the electronics register. The IEBC has responded to this. You remember when he was receiving the presidential candidates at Bomas, the Azimio presidential candidates had questions, and during that meeting, IEBC says that the questions you have raised, it was 10 points. I remember
the 10 questions.
The 10 questions. And actually, they responded to them, and they even put them on the paper. In addition to that, came the issue of the Form 34A. You remember the two series, and they responded. It was even on the Daily Nation. So what they haven't just spoken to colleagues is, in view of these issues of access on website, the access to the database, you can see already the answers. This is how I see the answers, because they pointed out that the primary reference tool will be the electronic register, because the electronic register has more details, and then they have they will print out a physical copy that removes, for example, part of the information like mobile phone, together with just having your name and your ID, but it is a printout from the electronic that will be present in the polling station. What I see in all this is that the IEBC needs to do more, invest more in terms of communication, and communication is not through advertising on the papers. However good at times the media houses get some good money by advertising on the papers, but communication, you speak the language of the people. I normally say this, and I would want to repeat it here. that where communication stops, imaginations take over. What you have control over is actually the imagination, but is the communication, but you don't have control over what people imagine. So for me, I think, Philip, if I would be able to speak to the chairman if he's watching, is that a day like today, let him be found in such sessions. Let him have this conversation, because be where the people are. At times when you communicate from your office, and only on the papers, the messages do not reach the critical places. And remember, we are in a political season. If I have an issue and I see that things are not working my way, all I need to do as a politician is to make a blank statement.
But Vincent, very quickly, I mean, yes, this report was released, I think a month, 2 months ago, but the full report was, publicly released on Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
On Wednesday. So does this even give enough time for stakeholders to scrutinize some of these issues coming out right now? Issues of including what? Generic user accounts, increasing the risk of sharing credentials, and there are more issues here.
Remember, it is, and again, I am not speaking for IEBC. Right. So let me be responsible to the extent which I can give an account. I'm pointing out that they came out and they said that we have engaged KPMG to do an audit. So the report we're talking about is part of that report, and you can see that to some extent, some of the questions they've answered. I'm happy that this information is even available publicly before we go to the poll, so that we can be able to ask them, could you then respond on these issues? Because
but days to the election?
Yes, because it's I don't want to take because we are both me and you, we've not been there. All that we require is them to come out clearly and say that what have they done about those questions, because the report has been available. It's not a new thing.
So communication.
I agree with you to the extent that
yes.
I mean, we must give them credit where it is due. They have been operating a three-person commission for quite a while until they got these other commissioners. So they have, they have tried, given the constraints they had, but maybe they would have done better. I agree with you that failure for any institution to communicate effectively can create a lot of doubts.
Absolutely.
So as to why, I'm not here to defend the commission. I'm here as a taxpayer. As to why we've always known IEBC to have a very strong communication department or unit. This lady who took off to the US, she was a very effective communicator.
She was a communication. She was a commissioner.
So why it doesn't matter. But she had the capability, she had the capacity, she had the knowledge, and she was effective in communicating the policy issues and any queries that arose. As to why that that just failed, it doesn't work anymore. Wait a minute. As to why we don't see it. What we keep on seeing is when there's an issue, there's only one person responding to everything. You see, that creates doubts. It becomes a one-man show. Responsibilities need to be shared, so that Chebukati, maybe as a chairperson, can deal with more serious issues relating to policy. But where you have commissioners with other competencies, please also let them allow.
Gentlemen, I need to go on a break. I need to come back.
We need to pay the bills.
Is this from 2022? It is 3 days, 23 hours, 9 minutes, and 36 seconds to elections.
Oh, you got it.
Peace.
All right.
We'll be right back. We're back.
Oh, I see.
All right, welcome back. Position 2022. It is 3 days, several hours into it. You're watching NTV, and our coverage continues. We were speaking on the question of IEBC and the voter register and that audit done by KPMG. Phil, he's here at the floor. Please make your point and finish it before.
Yes, before Vincent can come through. Now, what I was saying is that, when you're running an institution, sharing of responsibility based on competency is important. But what we've seen by the IEBC that is currently in existence is a one-man show. are we saying that the other commissioners we have do not have competencies in the areas that are required? Because the previous commissioners, we knew when it was a matter to do with communication, I think there was a lady called Akombe who came through, and she did a superb job. So maybe this institution called IEBC, or before it had a different name, I think there is need to learn from the past and use that as a building block. Now, finally, the other thing is, of course, response. When you delay to respond to a query, you create doubts in the minds of people. So my friend Wafula Chebukati needs to know that any time an issue is raised, and that's why sharing of responsibilities can help. You have this person who there's a matter on maybe equipment or machinery, you send James. There is a matter on communication, you'll send Zainab, and so on and so forth. So I would encourage him to have faith and confidence in other commissioners. They will not outshine him. At the end of the day, he remains the chairperson. Credit goes to him when things work.
And also credit and also blame goes to
blame,
him.
of course, blame will go to him when it won't work. But yes, you see, when you work as a team and you allow other people to contribute, they will outshine you. You remain the boss.
But we've seen the CEO
you remain the boss.
coming up very strong.
I don't know. I mean,
we've seen
Majan, a friend of mine, but is a shadow of the people I've seen before. I mean, he doesn't come out strongly as a CEO. A CEO is an accounting officer. So things that are supposed to be held to account, he should be the one communicating. Okay? And then you leave, like Vincent said, you leave political matters to the chairperson. But technical matters should be dealt by the secretariat.
I have to say this. I think this is my school of thought. The experience of 07, where the CEO came out very strongly on operational issues, with clarity, would appear, the 2017.
Right.
It looks like in the 2022, Chebukati's school of thought is the centralization of everything. I get concerned as a governance practitioner when the chairman of the IEBC, even on an issue to do with the procurement of pens or technical issues, that is the one signing off. And I want to buttress this, that the IEBC is both a technical institution and also a political institution. In my view, I would have recommended to the Commission to separate the political dimension of their operations with the technical, so that when it comes to external communication, technical issues are communicated by the CEO, then the political dimensions of their operations are done by the chairman. Now, the other thing I also want to point out is that there are two types of communication. There is political communication, and then there is corporate communication. You can do very well in terms of communicating from a corporate perspective, but fail on the political communication. Political communication is when your messages reaches the right people in the right way you would want, without distortion. At times, I think like on this issue we are talking about, the KPMG issue. You would have expected somebody like the CEO to come out clearly, explain to people, these are the, like we went out and we are the people who contacted an audit firm. These are, they raised, for example, this number of issues. We've responded to this number of things, and we have engaged the stakeholders in this way, so that they do not leave anyone to doubt. I also want to say this. The level of scrutiny that IEBC is being held this year, for me, whilst it's a good thing, few institutions in our public space are undergoing that level of scrutiny. You used to work for the Nairobi City, I think before devolution. We should be subjecting all public institutions to this level of scrutiny. For example, central bank brings when they are doing their work, we get currency from Delarue here along Thika Road, but we are printing our ballot papers outside the country. Yet, when you look at the currency together with the IEBC ballot, the usability of the currency is, the note is more valuable in our economy, at times not used the way we use a ballot paper. Why don't we work towards building and getting these things being done locally? Because it's a lot of money that we are giving out to other countries, yet if this money was spent locally, jobs will be created.
But that's where the trust issue has come.
No, and that's what I'm saying. We need
day, and of course they will be held accountable for that. But also very big today, it's over that case and judgment yesterday. Raila's big win in battle over register. Judge orders IEBC to use printed list of voters alongside the electronic kits, and the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition candidate Raila Odinga, according to the papers, won big after the High Court ordered the use of the manual register. Odinga had been pushing for the use of the register, insisting that the move by the IEBC to phase it out was unconstitutional. Philip, this has been a conversation for the longest time in this electoral cycle, manual versus digital. And why should this be a win for Raila Odinga?
You see, the chairperson of the electoral body is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. So he's a respected human being so far as matters are concerned, legal matters. I think it was in 2012, I can't remember, I think it's Regulation 61 or 64, subsection 4, which, allowed both to run concurrently. It talks about having elections carried out using ICT infrastructure, but at the same time using a manual system. So they are supposed to complement one another. And I don't even think Honorable Raila was asking for too much. If I understood him, what you're saying is that we just need this manual register to ensure that the people who, before you cross the line to go and use the electronic system, that you actually appear in the manual register.
Right.
So, the courts have done their job. They have basically interpreted the law. These regulations were amended in 2012.
So there's no question about it.
There's no question about it. The courts have pronounced themselves, and it's up now Chebukati to ensure that both the electronic voter register is available and is functional, and the manual register is available to complement one another.
The complementarity. The question on that voter register, I think.
I think it's something that has been discussed. It has been communicated, clarified, and it's the same position that the Commission has pointed out. As I said, there is one register. The printed copy only has certain information removed, so you'll only have your name, your ID number, and your polling station. So we are talking about the same thing, and it's also good that to see the concurrence and the clarity that the court provides, so that that becomes the reference point. Like if you remember, in 2013, the court case by Maina Kiai that clarified clearly where should be the last results. The last results is what is announced at the polling station. And if the only place that, if people turn up and vote, that will be the information that will be used. Even if we have to have a retallying, the basis then is clearly what the court has articulated, that it is the results at the polling station. So our institutions doing their part, providing the clarity that's needed, just so that we can move this election and our governance forward. So it's part of our growth in our journey of democracy.
Right. Inside the last 48 hours, that's the standard. The final sprint has a brief there on what's happening. Says, on one hand, Raila Odinga was in Vihiga making a final call with Kisumu backyard. Today, he will be at Tononoka, Mombasa. Tomorrow, Azimio flag bearer holds final mega rally at Kasarani Stadium. On the other hand, yesterday, DP Ruto raised concerns on polls and mixed speech in Makueni and the coast. Today, the UDA chief is in Kamkunji here in Nairobi. Tomorrow, expected to hold final mega rally at the General Stadium. Interestingly, though, the president visits Makueni, opens projects at the coast. That was yesterday. Tomorrow, there is it Sagana 6? It'll be at the State Lodge in Nyeri. Philip, what's happening here?
President Uhuru Kenyatta is performing his constitutional mandate. He made promises to Kenyans. He had his Agenda 4, and is now, rolling out, the results. That this is what I promised to do, and this is what I've delivered. So I see nothing wrong with what His Excellency the President is doing. He is
very active in the campaign trail.
You see, when the president, he will retire when the new person is sworn in. You see, so long as he's still in office, we require, because he's earning a salary, we would expect that he will work up to the last minute. In fact, I'm impressed. Because you see, this assumption that Uhuru is going to be a lame duck, that in his last days in office, he'll probably be a confused person. We've seen a president who is sure, is confident of what he's doing, and he's doing what we elected him to do. So let us not blame the president when he's performing a job that we are paying him to do. On the other side, there are two men. There is Honorable Raila Odinga and Honorable William Ruto, who are looking for jobs. They are the ones going around trying to convince people last minute that they can do a better job. So these are two different people. One doing the actual job, the other two asking for a job. They are sending applications, and trying to convince us that But let me make this comment, James. This is the last stretch, because the law only allows them to campaign today, and tomorrow by midnight we close the campaigns. So they are struggling. Now, Raila, of course, is trying to hold on to his strongholds, to make sure that the turnout in his strongholds are high, okay? Because all the polls have indicated that he has a lead of about 7%, okay? On the other side, William Ruto, realizing that the thing may slip off his hands, he is also, trying to catch up and, probably convince the undecided voter, who are about 7%, to vote for him, okay? As whether they'll vote for him, the 7% undecided will vote for him in the next, you change their minds to vote for him the next 48 hours is a matter that we can just wait to see, okay? Because at the worst case scenario, if you've not studied, James, and we've all been to school, yeah? If your parents have been paying school fees from Form 1 up to Form 4, and you try and read for exams in the last minute, you've just been praying around, confusing people, trying to, maybe probably coming home with fake reports. That last week, it doesn't matter how much effort you put in. I'm telling you, the results will show that you are doing a lousy job, that your parents paid school fees and you never really were serious in class. So, 48 hours, I don't see a big difference, but I wish them well. Worst case scenario is that there will be a split. That
we'll go to a second round.
No, there's no second round. I mean, they decided a 7%. Raila takes 4%. He is 50 plus 1. Ruto takes 3% or 2%. He is still below. So I don't see a second round here. This is a straight round one thing.
Do you see the same? Do you see?
No, I think Honorable Kisia, when we began this, we said let's keep this to the strategy boardroom level. There's a level he left us, and he went to the political space. So I will not join him in that. Let me go to the strategy space. You know, even with opinion polls, that's why you in class we used to have the issue of margin of error, plus or minus. The truth of the matter is that the only true and final opinion is the opinion that Kenyans will express come on Tuesday, this coming week. And it is also not lost that it is possible for a tie out of this process. It's possible for a first round. It is also possible that this election, none may get the 50 plus 1%. I'm saying all those things are provided for. And the good thing is that frameworks for prosecuting your complaints are also provided for. You can go to the Supreme Court that can overturn. And it's also possible that we can have a clear round one going either way. What I have to say is that if you're on the side that the president is supporting, you're very happy. The president is doing his job, and you have heard what has been said here. I will not repeat. But if you're on the other side that the president is not on your side, you will remind them of Mwai Kibaki, that Mwai Kibaki was a good president. He allowed people to campaign freely, and then he only handed over to the person whom Kenyans supported. So it's a question of posturing. But the truth of the matter is that you cannot ignore the support of a sitting president. That is what is coming out clearly, because out of it comes the goodwill of the provincial administration. You realize that you've not had, for example, the Ruto's opponent complaining about accessing a venue. They are not complaining about the meetings are not being secured. You've not heard about, so no, it is the capital. It is the capital that comes with having the president on your side. He has been in the governance in the city county. I can assure you, if the sitting governor of Nairobi is not supporting a cause you are in charge, they can be able to make an announcement. Allow me to finish. I gave you the opportunity. He can be able
really
to
wants
make...
to respond.
Hold on. There are moderators here, so, and you have not resigned on your jobs. The truth of the matter is that you cannot ignore the goodwill, because I have served as a CEO and both a chairman of an institution. My friends, there is a posture that you can take as the chairman or even the CEO that everybody knows what should be allowed here or what should not be allowed here. So I would not be surprised that the deputy president, you saw the complaints that they raised. I think, yes, on this, IEBC being intimidated, chiefs are being forced, and then they are not accessing venues, there are incitements. If they had the support of the sitting president, these are the very things that his opponents would be complaining about. So the message is very clear. Never ignore the support of a sitting president, but also you would appreciate that is the strategy that they've taken for them to remain relevant in the campaign. So we were told by an ambassador in the past that choices have consequences, and the men have made the choices, and truly we are seeing the consequences. Not even Tuesday. We are already seeing the consequences now. And because let me ask, I have to ask this. Think about this, because this election can go either way. President, just look at this, and it has happened in Africa. We go to the elections, come the third, clear win by Kenya Kwanza. Just imagine the posture that the president will take, the posture that the former premier will take. Because you have, and remember, we also have the civil servants who have been facilitating this process. What posture will they take? So that's why I like this analysis, that even at times it might be sweet to take certain posture, but also prepare. In 2002, you remember, and this is even documented, when Mwai Kibaki won, you saw even the exit of certain senior civil servants. It was not a good exit for them. So I usually tell people, please, even as you push this thing, remember we were told by Lin Jiru, these are political cousins. It's very easy for Raila and Ruto to close ranks, Uhuru and Ruto to close ranks. In fact, if for example, Kenya Kwanza win, 1 hour of Ruto praising Uhuru, people will forget their differences.
All right.
So it's good to see it from that dimension.
I'm happy Vincent has referred to my tenure as a state officer. I can tell you had the same experience when
Yes.
The current president was coming from Hague.
Mm.
And when you talk about strategy, because you're both strategists, when you talk about strategy,
Mhm.
is planning and executing your plan.
Yeah.
First of all, you must plan.
Sure.
So if if you don't plan properly, there'll be nothing to execute, right? So I'll give you this example. When Uhuru was coming from Hague, ODM had that prior knowledge that they will require a venue to hold a meeting. Do you know what they did? Because they are thinking strategically, they paid for all the venues. They paid. They paid me. Not me, but they paid City Council. They paid,
important clarification.
yes. They paid City Council.
All the venues.
All the venues.
Right. Yes.
They are not going to use them.
Yes. They just
but they paid for
They
them.
just held it.
Yeah. So legally, you cannot fault them for paying for venue. Whether they're using the venue or not, they're paid.
That's the problem.
Right.
Okay? Now, but the question I asked myself, as the chief executive officer running the city at that time, I asked myself, legally, they are right. I asked my boss, Musalia Mudavadi, morally, are you right? Are you right morally? Legally, yeah. If I give away the venue to Uhuru and group, you can take me to account. Okay? But sit down and ask yourself whether morally you've done the right thing. And you know what? After a few hours, I called him and I said, I'm giving that group Uhuru Park to hold their meeting. And I told him, I'm running the city. I don't want under my tenure to have bloodshed in the city. Because you have 50% strength. Uhuru was about 50% of the city. Raila at that time had about 50 plus something. Okay? So you can imagine if the two forces met at Uhuru Park, the damage, the loss of life that would have occurred.
In occasion.
So I made a decision and I told Musalia, I'll give it away. So he said, okay, let me consult. At that time, they were still in good books with Mheshimiwa Raila, and he called Raila and said, you please call the Prime Minister, but I'm giving out the venue because I must make a cautious decision that will be good for this city. Okay? Right. But let me say this. Failure to book a venue, you cannot blame anybody. They failed to book a venue in good time. You book the venue, you sign a contract, you pay for it. They knew they were supposed to have had this meeting on a Saturday at a particular time. So if their strategic team was asleep, they can only blame themselves. Let me come back to the issue of the figures that my brother Vincent has talked about.
Yeah.
Right now, all reputable polling companies have indicated that one is at 49, another one is at 41, 42. Margin of error is 1.5. You cannot go beyond 2%. Otherwise, then, those results are not credible. Okay? You cannot rely on them. So even if you take the margin of error into account and you say that the undecided voters are about 7%, and you start working on scenarios, you say, okay, fine, supposing, and what can cause a split? Why the 7%, why would they vote this side or not this side? I think, in my view, there's every indication, being a human being, there's no human being who would want to lose. So, and there's that bandwagon effect, yeah? That these 7% have been asking themselves, hey, you know what? We're not really sure. Can we just wait? Where is the wind blowing? And how they have seen the wind blowing in one direction, the chances are that out of the undecided, 80% will vote with the team that is perceived to win.
But
okay?
I think, Philip, it's good to put into consideration the fact that within this 8%, there are those who are undeclared, who have refused to declare their positions within the 8%. So not the entire 8%.
I think the ones, okay, I mean, undecided is 6. Even if you refuse to declare your position, you are still undecided. So it's still 8. You have not decided. Okay. Whether you've refused to answer or not, you are undecided. You are not sure.
From the opinion polls,
so
of course, even, those who are shy enough to say...
even if you took 6% as undecided and 2% as those who have refused to answer to the question, and you created a split, there's still a clear winner. What I agree with my brother, what I agree with him, is that we are not very sure whether Raila, we're not 100% sure that Raila will have in round 1 50+1. But as to whether he'll win in round 1, that is already clear. That is already clear.
I'll tell you this.
Very briefly, because
30 seconds. I need to go break.
Okay. I don't know why the breaks...
It always falls on you, unfortunately.
I have not paid them.
I want to plead the fifth...
Okay, make your point. Make your point before break.
Let's do it because I need a good time to prosecute.
Right. Again, it is 3 days, 22 hours, at about what, 38?
You know the maths. Not so good.
Yes.
51 minutes?
3 days, 22 hours, and about, I think, 38 minutes.
Oh, why? Okay.
To the opening of the polls.
Yes, to the opening of the polls. You're watching Decision 2022. I do have Vincent Kimosov and Philip Kisia. Vincent has gracefully withheld his point until after the break, so please.
We'll be back with that. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. This is Decision 2022, and we're taking a look at the political climate in the country. Just less than 3 days. You're talking about 72 hours.
3 days, 22 hours, and about 32 minutes.
Now you've gone ahead. I think it's now about 10 more minutes to, of course, the 9th August election. Vincent, we were speaking about, of course, that the few hours remaining at the end of the campaign, and of course to wind up on your
no, I was pointing out, I was appealing to my friends in the media. By the way, Kisia also worked in the media, so this when I say my colleagues in the media, that is the background. That let us, as much as possible, ensure that the coverage, the preparation, and the socialization is preparing Kenyans for possible scenarios of either a Kenya Kwanza or an Azimio win. Because what happens if, for example, things don't go the way, for example, people would want to see happen? Because I advise politicians, you do not go to an election as a politician with losing as an option. Every time you have to, even when you see all the numbers don't seem to be working, you're already telling people that when I am sworn in, when you can even see that you're getting 2% in the opinion polls, because you have to inspire your people. But reality will be that come Tuesday, and actually Wednesday, out of the 18,000 who are contesting for the 6 positions, only 1,882 are going to get positions. So what happens? We require counselors, psychologists to prepare people to emotionally adjust to the reality. Out of the 4 presidential candidates that we are having, one of them is going to emerge victorious, and the 4 are not going to go anywhere. So, and the more we talk about all the scenarios, the fairer we are to Kenyans, even as we prepare the country towards the elections.
So you don't think the country is sort of prepared for a Kenya Kwanza win? Or is that what you feel, that there's one side, it's only expected that Raila Odinga will be the president? You don't think Kenyans are prepared for a William Ruto presidency?
Figures don't lie. Figures don't lie. They have never lied. Since time immemorial. The figures right now are indicative that Raila, Amolo, Odinga will be the 5th. Unless something so drastic happens. And I agree with my brother Vincent that miracles happened in the Bible. They may happen.
I told you, my friend has become. I should join politics.
They may just happen again.
Yeah. But you're saying figures don't lie.
They don't lie.
Was it the 2013 or the 20?
The opinion polls.
You see,
you're placing Raila ahead.
That's actually one of the.
They're saying that is one of the miracles. That a miracle happened in between, and somebody else won the elections.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, and I agree with Vincent that a miracle would happen. But if that, in the absence of that miracle, Raila, be prepared. Just be prepared to accept Raila Amolo Odinga as the 5th president. But let me say this. You know, the people who create tension are not you and me. As you rightly put it, the people who create tension are the politicians. Not me, the politicians.
Not Philip, the politician.
Not me. Okay? So the beauty is that this old man called Raila Amolo Odinga has run, this is I think the 5th time?
Yes, the 5th
okay?
term, right.
And he has always, when he has lost, he said, okay, I've lost fairly. Of course, when there have been other manipulations, he has come out open and said, okay, I've been manipulated, but this country is bigger than Raila. And he has accepted and he has moved on. Okay? And that has not changed his life. And I can assure you, the Raila I know, because I've sat with him very closely, he's a gentleman, he's a statesman. Raila goes beyond Kenya. He's a Pan-Africanist. If by some heavenly coincidence he lost this election, I can assure you he'll walk out gracefully and say, okay, I ran a good race, but I've lost. I would expect to get the same vibes from the other side, that I've been campaigning for the last 4 years. Yeah, it is painful. You know, it's very painful that, you know, that I may lose, and I've lost, and I accept. So I think preparation for me is more on the other side than on Raila's side, because this guy, he's my friend. Yeah. He has never run for any presidential election and lost. So this will be a shocker to him. In fact, probably the person who probably needs a lot of counseling is William, more than Raila. Because Raila has gone, what has Raila not gone through?
I see.
He has gone through everything. So losing this, he will not lose. But losing this one will not change the Raila that I know. Okay? So we are safe in the hands of Raila Amolo Odinga.
Vincent. Wow. You know, I wish I was prepared. You know, the challenge is when you are... let me respond to the technical, because the political, I am yet to get into the political space. I agree. The truth of the matter is that Raila has demonstrated the same in terms of coming out clearly and accepting the results. In fact, both of them have actually come out clearly in this election that they will respect the will of the people, but appeal to the IEBC to carry out a free, fair, credible, and a verifiable election. So I personally wish them well. They are great Kenyans. If whatever results happens, there is no one who is a visitor in this country. We will be okay, whatever the results. For me, I'm speaking to the process, both the integrity of the process and also the will of the people are being respected. If that happens, that is what we should all welcome as a people.
The question about this election, I mean, as we get to the story from the papers now, the thing about what has characterized this election, Philip, has been perhaps two things. Well, we do know the fallout between the president and his deputy has played a big part. The handshake comes into effect. But also there's the question of the economy, which the Kenya Kwanza has projected coming out to this campaign. Azimio was just put together in December last year when it all came together, and sort of projecting this thing of one Kenya where, you know, we are peaceful and guarantor of peace and that's something for everyone else. What do you think is the most important thing in this election?
I think, you know, much has been said about the economy. But the reality is that globally, we are facing challenges. It's not only in Kenya. Even the other day, I had President Biden talk about the challenges that America is facing. Despite the fact that he has created 8 million jobs, people are still complaining. The economy has grown, people are still complaining. So Kenya is not an exception. But if you look at the indicators, the performance indicators of our economy, Kenya has moved from position 12 in Africa to 6. We have moved from GDP of 4.7 trillion to almost about what? We are now at about, is it 11.7, going to 12 billion, okay? So those are good signs that we are moving forward and not backward. If you are moving backward, I would have been a bit worried, but we're moving forward. And if you look at the infrastructure projects that Uhuru has rolled out, especially in the last 5 years, it is highly commendable. But let us get back to...
It's come with serious debt.
Let us now... Sorry?
It has come with debt.
You see, for you to progress, you must incur debt. There's nothing wrong. Singapore progressed because it borrowed and put money not into operations, but into infrastructure. So Uhuru has borrowed money, not for operation, but for infrastructure. That is okay. So I think you lost me. Your question, one second. Your question was,
what is
thing
about this
what
election?
What are people looking?
Right.
What are people expecting from this election? From where I sit, integrity. People are scrutinizing the candidates. If they have any shadow of a doubt about your level of integrity, you can be sure that you're losing votes, particularly the ones who are called undecided. Yeah? I have not mentioned names, but if they integrity. The other thing, we thought that a youth, that if you dress like a youth, isn't that I'm also attempting to dress like a youth, not like Vincent in a suit and tie. We thought that by doing that, the youth will follow you. But what we have seen is a youth are saying, no, who can give us hope? Where is hope? Because we seem to be at the lowest in terms of integration as a community. So who among these 4 candidates can inspire hope? Because we're almost losing hope. The other thing, and which is very critical, and you cannot ignore, the issue of continuity. Who among these candidates will say, or who will not take what I call the zero approach mentality to management? That you want to start from zero. That you are saying that the others have done nothing, that I must start from, basically
Clean
from zero, coming to, yeah?
It's like
and the other candidates,
like coming to a whole new Kenya.
Yeah, a whole new Kenya. Yet you forget that this country has something we call Vision 2030. Vision 2030 does not belong to any individual. Vision 2030 belongs to Kenyans. We had Kibaki, he did his bit. We've had Uhuru, he has done his bit. And by the way, all the things Uhuru has done are actually captured in Vision 2030. So he has not, you as a president, you are guided. You can't come in and say, I'll do this. Like I heard somebody, when I was listening to your news, one of the candidates saying that when I come in, if you are sacked, I'll return. Public service doesn't work that way, for those of you who have been public service. So those, in my view, are 3 very important ingredients. Integrity, continuity, hope.
I beg
do you agree or do you differ?
I beg to disagree. Every election has what you call the organizing question. And let me go back to 92. 92 was, the organizing question was multi-partism. That's why even those who crossed over, the whole conversation was around multi-partism. 97 was, in my view, it was the IPPG, no reforms. It was the defining thing. No reforms, no elections. 2002, yote yawezekana. That we can anything but Kanu. That's why even if you remember, the people who crossed over from the government and they crossed over to the out of Kanu, they were branded reformists. Yote yawezekana. 2007, 42 against 1. The whole issue of which I think you can fill in the spaces. 2013 ICC. That was the defining thing, ICC. 2017, the electoral process. That's why it went all the way to the Supreme Court. And even if you look at the number of litigations, laws, procurement, all that, you can see it was the electoral process. The defining question of 2022, bei ya unga, the economy. And for me, as an observer, next time you brief me well so that I prepare for the political dimension. Today I will do the technical.
You're doing very well.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup. This is how every election has the same narrative. If you listen to Azimio Kindly, they actually are talking about the economy, but the lenses in which they're looking at it is where the difference is. The same thing to Kenya Kwanza. This is how Azimio looks at this election, and the economy being the central thing. The Azimio wing looks like governance, good governance, as the facilitator to a good economy. That if we can get governance right, what happens? We will get the economy and the rest. That is the way I see. The Kenya Kwanza wing looks at this election that the most important thing is that if we grow and we get the economy right, chakula kwa meza, I even want to say it in Swahili, chakula kwa meza na pesa mfukoni. That is their message. What happens? The person who has some money in their pockets, we can now discuss governance. How do we sort out issues? That's how the two posturing of this election looks at it. And for me, that's why if you look at the conversation around Azimio, is that move this conversation to the pendulum as far as good governance, because that's where the CV is strong. And you can even hear the reinforcement that my friend has pointed out, that get governance right, everything will be okay. Right. The Kenya Kwanza wing is, let's get the economy working. What happens? We can discuss the issues of
corruption and
all
everything
that.
else.
So
Yes.
Even when you look at the issue of corruption, then they talk about state capture. State capture is an economics conversation. So that's what I was just prosecuting the message, that there's the defining message in this election. It is the economy. I will say like Bill Clinton, it is the economy, stupid.
So the thing is this.
I think, one second. I think,
let me
one second.
Don't respond to this directly.
I'm not responding directly. Yes. I'm saying, you know, Vincent is right, and I don't intend to disagree with him.
Thank you.
He is confusing between messaging, because the two teams have a rallying call. What is the rallying call? Yote yawezekana. The other one, I think, is pesa mfukoni or something like that. But on this side, they are talking of yote yawezekana. I think your question was, what would be the voter looking for? What are they, you know, underneath the rallying call? What are these issues that they are looking for?
You know,
I said, well, number one, because I've gone through the opinion polls.
Yeah.
Okay. Of course, number one, across the board, you know, each region have different concerns. But number one, in all the regions I've looked at, is the cost of living. Okay.
Which is economics?
Cost of living.
Yeah.
Okay. You can call it economics, but cost of living. Number two, the issue of infrastructure comes number two in terms of priority. Okay. So other than the rallying call, because you know when you're on a political platform, you can't get into detail, as you said. You can't start saying, you message your way that it is easy, that gives clarity, that people can easily understand and give their own interpretation to the message. But what are the issues? What are the issues that people are looking at? The issue number one. And you're not going to run away from meet Vincent. You told me you're a governance specialist.
Yes,
the issue of integrity. Because why are we having all these problems? Cost of living going up, and so on and so forth. It is because of corruption. Yeah, corruption is thriving. Corruption thrived in Uhuru's because of the partners probably he had in the first term. There was, I mean, out of I think 23 mega scandals that this administration has had, about 21 occurred in round one. I think 1 or 2 in round 2. So the voters have put on a lens and they are saying, listen, for us to cure all these challenges we're having, what do we need? What sort of person do we need? What sort of administration do we need? We need people with a high level of integrity. Because all these things we're talking about, if the issue of integrity is not addressed, the issue of governance, which is a pet subject, is not addressed, we are still we shall still end up in the same problem.
Okay. I'm surprised because you've quoted opinion polls. Just point of information.
I've quoted who?
I'm saying point of information allows me to inform what you are postulating. Please. You have the most the person who has cited opinion polls more in this debate, more than even our moderators. He's yours truly, Philip Kisia.
They're not mine.
Hold on.
Are they mine?
I'm just hear what I don't condemn the messenger.
I have no condemn.
Hold on. It's our. You are the one who facilitates debate, so I think we're doing a good job here. The opinion poll I would want to quote is the one by Ipsos, because the sample size was actually larger than the sample size of the other opinion polls, telling you in terms of level of accuracy, it's higher than the others. I think they polled 6,000 people. The last one that they released this week. If you check the key issues that Kenyans are speaking about, or what are the most pressing issues, the number one thing is cost of living, number 2 is the issue of unemployment, then number 3 is corruption. I agree. Of course, I would love a conversation around integrity, because some of us have paid a high price as a result of standing for integrity in where we've served. So I like integrity. But Philip, since we are discussing about the elections, but get me into your strategy team one of these days. You do very well in terms of the corporate, but the translation of it into the politics of what the people want. Mwananchi anataka kusikia wewe bei ya unga utafanya nini kupunguza? That is the real the elephant in the room. So I hear your messages in terms of the issues, but what the masses are waiting to hear in this election.
How do you answer the question that people vote against the self-interest all the time? That, you know, this is the right candidate, this is the candidate who's saying all the right things, but they still vote against
But I told you, my friend, I give you the answer at the beginning of this program. I told you an election is about the head and the heart. And my good friend does very well at the head level. The heart level of what rallies people into the election is what an election determines. And at times, my friend's smart is that is where you are at times, because the heart at times is not as intelligent as the head. You can give all the issues in terms of number 1, number 2, number 3, but the emotional dimension of what are we voting for? Look, let's look at the elections in 2013. The truth of the matter, because now we are so that we use the history. In my view, the right combination to have won 2013 election, for example, in my view, was based on CV, based on the issues, was the code framework in 2013. But the elephant in the room at that time was the issue of ICC, which was magnified so high that this team, however rich their CV was, they are taking us to The Hague. So, James, we will, I and Philip will come.
Precisely the point, though, that in spite of how, you know, sort of, what 2013, Raila was Prime Minister, and sort of, after coming out from a Kibaki governance that was
and even leading the constitutional,
that it made sense for him, even if you had asked voters then, it made sense for him for the continuity, but they didn't, because ICC was such an overwhelming thing, right? So the voters for Uhuru and Ruto did not really care about the competence and what Kibaki was doing. They were like, we need to save these guys from,
so they appeal to the emotional side, of course, of the voters.
Yeah, you see, Vincent has not disagreed with me. When I talk about hope covers is very wide. I'm assuring you that once I'm there, the cost of commodities will come down. Once I'm there, those who have been, embezzling public funds will be arrested and jailed within the shortest time. I'm giving you hope. So hope covers the things we've talked about, the cost of living and hunger. Don't forget that there are others who eat rice. But, of course, a majority of us.
I'm actually...
Yes. So Vincent,
right. Yes, sir.
We have not disagreed.
Yes.
Okay. The only area we're disagreeing is the question that has not been answered, or rather, at least we're not agreed. You have not agreed with my argument. You've talked about the sample size of Ipsos, 6,000. I can also tell you the latest opinion polls that were run by Infotrack, they are 5,960. I have the report. The latest. I have the report. Okay? So that's 6,000. Okay?
Yeah.
And it still gives Raila 49 point something percent lead. And it gives William 41%. So in terms of sampling, I think the two have done well. It's 6,000. Okay, a difference of 30 doesn't make any huge amount of.
But just, can I just say as a point of information that a huge sample size really doesn't make a poll better or worse?
No, it does. It's from a research.
Scientific.
I can speak scientifically.
No.
Hang on, gentlemen.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
A sample size, when you do the right framing, you can interview 1,000 people who would give you the views of 1 million people. If you interview 30,000 people, doesn't mean it's better than 1,000 people.
I agree.
The margin of error narrows if you go for a bigger sample size. So that's why, for example, at 2,000, you can go for a plus
maybe 3%.
Then as you narrow the sample, you go to 1%. Like if you the 6,000 and the 2,000, if you have the results, that issue of undivided voters, if you had 7%, you can see your level of precision is higher with a larger sample size. That's basically what was prosecuting.
But I agree with Smart. It doesn't mean that if you have a huge number, it depends on how you stratified your frame. Okay. If you've got it right, the sample size may not make a big difference. But again, I agree with you that scientifically,
a larger sample size gives you a lot of things to go through. Yes.
I mean, you can't come with a very small sample size and say that you carried out an opinion poll. It must be acceptable based on international standards.
Yes. Right.
Okay.
All right. Maybe 30 seconds closing remarks? 30 seconds?
Wow. We are done with the program.
Right. We've
done 2 hours. Again, the larger the time does not mean we didn't spend 2 hours here.
Let me give, he has been complaining.
Let the politicians start. Okay. I will.
So both of you want the final word. So
no,
do a vote?
No, I will.
Okay.
All right.
I can go. I think, first of all, I just want to say a big thank you for this conversation. Really honored to be part of this conversation. I will start by really making the appeal to the IEBC to ensure that they carry out this poll. They do it in a credible, transparent, fair and a verifiable manner. I will appeal to all Kenyans to exercise caution, to come out and vote, because it is not only a civic responsibility, it's also a patriotic responsibility. Whatever the results and the outcome, I think we should, any of the two who will win will still be a Kenyan. So just to wish them well, those who will emerge victorious, and those who will not make it, just to appeal to them to accept the results. No one is going out of this country. We have a country to build.
All right.
And just in the words of our national anthem, that let all and one arise to build this country together. So let's arise and do our part.
Kenya is one.
Very quickly.
Kenya is one nation. I appeal to Kenyans to come out in large numbers to vote, because you have a constitutional right and you have a duty to vote, so that you don't blame anybody tomorrow. My appeal to the voter, please vote using your kichwa. The time for eating is over. What you have eaten, nobody will come and claim it, that is gone. Just use your head.
All right, thank you, Philip Kisia, Vincent Kimosop. Fantastic conversation, a great place to end. But Decision 2022 doesn't end here. Remember, we have that unrivaled coverage of this election throughout this week till the end, of course, of next week, until the results are declared and the polls are closed.
Yes.
Indeed. My name is Zainab Ismail. The hashtag to always use is Decision 2022. Ismail.
All right. 3 days, 22 hours, and 4 minutes.
I doubt that.
Smart. Please, when Elizabeth comes up next, continue with the Decision 2022. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Thank you.